Before we begin the story, let us know where you're watching from by leaving a comment below. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the story. Benjamin Cross pressed his phone harder against his ear, hoping the weak signal would somehow strengthen through sheer force of will. The massive snowflakes hitting his luxury car's windshield looked like nature's personal attack on his perfectly scheduled day. His driver had abandoned him 3 miles back, claiming the mountain roads were too dangerous for the company vehicle. "This is completely unacceptable," Benjamin muttered, watching his phone display finally give up and show no service. He was supposed to be in Denver by evening for a crucial board meeting about his latest acquisition. Instead, he was stuck on some forgotten mountain road in Colorado, surrounded by nothing but trees and endless white. When technology fails, the engine coughed once, twice, then died completely. Benjamin tried the ignition again, but nothing happened. He sat there for a moment, staring at the dashboard in disbelief. His $2,000 suit felt ridiculous in this wilderness setting, and his Italian leather shoes were completely unsuited for hiking through snow, through the blizzard. He spotted a faded wooden sign barely visible through the storm. Whispering Pines Mountain Lodge, 0.5 miles. Benjamin grabbed his briefcase and overnight bag, locked the useless car, and began trudging through the deepening snow. Each step was a struggle, his expensive shoes slipping on the icy ground. The lodge appears 20 minutes later. Half frozen and completely exhausted, Benjamin stumbled toward a warm glow cutting through the storm. The Whispering Pines Lodge emerged from the blizzard like something from a fairy tale, its windows glowing golden against the white landscape. Smoke curled from the chimney, and he could almost smell the wood fire from outside. Benjamin pushed through the heavy wooden door, bells jingling overhead. The warmth hit him immediately, along with the scent of pine, cinnamon, and something. Delicious cooking. Fire crackled in a massive stone fireplace. Rustic furniture filled the cozy main room. Meeting Autumn behind the registration desk stood a woman who made Benjamin forget about his frozen feet and ruined schedule. She had shoulder-length auburn hair that caught the firelight, warm brown eyes, and wore a simple green sweater that somehow looked more elegant than anything he'd seen in Manhattan boardrooms. "My goodness, you look frozen solid," she said, coming around the desk immediately. "Are you okay? Did your car break down?" "I'm Benjamin Cross," he said, trying to regain some dignity despite his bedraggled appearance. "I need a room for the night. My car died about half a mile down the road." Studied him with concern, not recognition. "I'm Autumn Hayes. I own this place with my family. Let me get you some hot coffee and dry clothes first." Shivering. The reality of mountain life fought him, led him to a chair by the fire, and disappeared into the back room. She returned with a steaming mug of coffee and a pair of thick wool socks. "These were my dad's. He's about your size. Your shoes are soaked through." Benjamin accepted the coffee gratefully, the warmth spreading through his hands. "Thank you. I don't usually find myself in situations like this. Mountain storms can catch anyone off guard," Autumn said kindly. "Are you visiting Colorado for business?" "I was supposed to be," Benjamin replied. "I have a meeting in Denver that I absolutely cannot miss." A young boy bounded down the stairs, his energy filling the room. "Aunt Autumn, is this the guy whose fancy car is stuck in the snow?" Tommy saw it from his bedroom window. "This is my nephew Tommy," Autumn said with a smile. "He's staying with me during winter break. And yes, this is Mr. Cross." Stranded for the night, Tommy studied Benjamin with undisguised curiosity. "Are you rich? That car looks really expensive." "Tommy," Autumn warned gently, but Benjamin found himself smiling at the boy's directness. "I do well for myself," Benjamin said diplomatically. Autumn checked her weather radio, frowning at the forecast. "The storm's getting worse. The roads will be impassable until at least tomorrow afternoon. I hope you weren't planning on leaving." Tonight, Benjamin's heart sank. "I have to get to Denver. This meeting is worth millions." "I understand, but nature doesn't care about business schedules," Autumn said softly. "You're welcome to stay here. We have a cabin that's perfect for guests." Cabin refuge. Autumn led Benjamin through the snow to a small, beautifully appointed cabin 50 yards from the main lodge. Inside, a fire was already crackling in the fireplace, and the space felt warm and welcoming. Hand-sewn quilts covered the bed, and local artwork decorated the walls. "This is incredible," Benjamin said, genuinely impressed. "You built this yourself?" "Father and I did most of the work," Autumn said proudly. "We wanted guests to feel like they were truly experiencing mountain life, not just staying in another hotel." She showed him where to find extra blankets and firewood. "I'll bring dinner." Over in about an hour, we're having my grandmother's famous beef stew. Unexpected conversations. When Autumn returned with dinner, she found Benjamin sitting by the fire. Still in his expensive suit, but looking more relaxed than when he'd arrived. He'd managed to dry his hair and seemed genuinely interested in the cabin's rustic details. "This is delicious," he said after tasting the stew. "I can't remember the last time I had a home-cooked meal." "You don't cook?" Autumn asked, settling into the chair across from him. "I live on takeout and restaurant meals, and my schedule doesn't allow for much else." Autumn studied him thoughtfully. "That sounds lonely." Benjamin paused, his spoon halfway to his mouth. "I never really thought about it that way. I've been focused on building my company for so long that everything else became secondary." "Learning about each other?" "What kind of company?" Autumn asked. "Technology consulting and acquisitions. We help smaller companies grow, or we buy them and integrate them into larger operations." "That sounds important," Autumn said, though something in her tone suggested she wasn't entirely impressed. "It is," Benjamin said, then found himself adding, "though I'm starting to wonder if it's the most important thing." They talked as the fire crackled, and Benjamin found himself sharing more about his life than he had with anyone in years. Autumn listened without judgment, occasionally asking questions that made him think about his choices in ways he never had before. The storm intensifies outside. The wind howled louder, and snow continued to pile against the windows. Benjamin glanced at his silent phone, feeling surprisingly unconcerned about the messages he couldn't check or the calls he couldn't make. "The storm should break by tomorrow evening," Autumn said. "But even then, it'll take time to clear the roads." "I'm beginning to think that might not be such a terrible thing," Benjamin admitted. Tommy appeared at the cabin door, bundled in a heavy coat. "Aunt Autumn says you can come to the main lodge if you want. We're going to play board games and make hot chocolate." An evening of simple pleasures at the main lodge. Benjamin found himself sitting on the floor around the coffee table, playing Monopoly with Tommy while Autumn prepared hot chocolate in the kitchen. The boy was a fierce competitor, and Benjamin discovered he was actually enjoying the simple game more than his usual high-stakes business negotiations. "You're pretty good at this," Tommy said, counting his play money. "But I'm still winning." "He always wins," Autumn called from the kitchen. "It's become a family tradition." Benjamin watched Autumn moving around the kitchen, her movements graceful and efficient. She seemed completely at peace in this environment, confident in a way that had nothing to do with money or power. The night's revelation, as the evening wound down. Benjamin helped Autumn clean up while Tommy fell asleep on the couch. The simple domesticity of the moment struck him as profoundly peaceful. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for everything. The room, the food, the company. I haven't felt this relaxed in years." "You seemed like you needed it," Autumn said, drying the last mug. "Sometimes the universe puts us exactly where we need to be." Benjamin looked at her, struck by the wisdom in her words. "I've spent so much time trying to control everything that I forgot what it felt like to just exist in the moment." "Have a way of teaching us that," Autumn said with a gentle smile. The promise of tomorrow's Benjamin prepared to return to his cabin, found himself reluctant to leave the warmth of the lodge in Autumn's presence. The storm still raged outside, but inside he felt a peace he hadn't experienced in years. "Will you join me for breakfast?" he asked. "I'd like that," Autumn replied. Benjamin walked back to his cabin through the snow, but for the first time in memory, he wasn't thinking about business deals or profit margins. He was thinking about auburn hair, warm brown eyes, and the way Autumn's laugh had made him feel like he was discovering something he'd lost long ago. The storm continued to rage outside, But inside the cabin, Benjamin Cross fell asleep to the sound of wind and snow, dreaming not of boardrooms and acquisitions, but of a woman who had shown him what it meant to be truly wealthy. Benjamin woke to sunlight streaming through the cabin windows and the sound of voices outside. The storm had finally passed, leaving behind a world transformed by pristine white snow. He dressed quickly and made his way to the main lodge, where he found Autumn and Tommy building a snowman in the front yard. "Good morning," Autumn called, her cheeks pink from the cold. "I was wondering when you'd wake up. Tommy insisted we start breakfast without you, but I saved you some pancakes." Benjamin couldn't help but smile at the sight of her, snow dusting, her dark hair and joy lighting up her face. "I haven't slept that well in months. There's something about this place that just makes everything feel peaceful." Meeting the family inside the lodge, Benjamin was introduced to Frank Hayes, Autumn's father and the lodge's original builder. The older man had weathered hands and kind eyes that seemed to see straight through to a person's character.
"Oh,
"The city fellow who got caught in our storm," Frank said, extending his hand. "Autumn tells me you're some kind of business executive." "Technology consulting," Benjamin replied, shaking the man's firm grip. "Though right now that feels like a lifetime away." Frank nodded approvingly. "Mountains have a way of putting things in perspective. My late wife always said this place was like a truth serum, brings out what's really important in people." The road home delayed after breakfast. Benjamin tried calling for a tow truck, only to learn that the mountain roads wouldn't be passable for at least another day. Instead of frustration, he felt something that surprised him: relief. "Looks like you're stuck with us a little longer," Autumn said, finding him on the lodge's front porch. "I hope that's not too terrible," actually, Benjamin said, turning to face her. "I can't think of anywhere I'd rather be stranded." The honesty in his voice made Autumn pause. She studied his face, seeing something different from the stressed businessman who had stumbled through their door yesterday, discovering hidden talents that afternoon. Autumn took Benjamin on a tour of the property. She showed him the workshop where she and her father crafted furniture for the cabins, the greenhouse where they grew herbs and vegetables, and the small stable where they kept horses for summer trail rides. "You built all of this yourselves?" Benjamin asked, genuinely amazed. "Most of it. We believe in creating something with your own hands, something that lasts." Autumn ran her fingers along a hand-carved beam. "It's different from the digital world you live in. This is tangible, permanent." Benjamin found himself picking up a piece of sandpaper and helping Autumn smooth a table she was refinishing. The repetitive motion was meditative, and he discovered he actually had a talent for the detailed work. An unexpected guest that evening. An elderly woman named Mrs. Chen arrived at the lodge, having managed to make it up the mountain before the storm hit. She was a retired teacher who had been coming to the lodge for 10 years, always staying for a week each winter to work on her watercolor paintings. "You must be the young man Autumn rescued from the storm," Mrs. Chen said with a knowing smile. "She has a gift for helping lost souls find their way." During dinner, Mrs. Chen regaled them with stories of her travels and her philosophy about life's unexpected turns. "The best adventures," she said, "are the ones we never planned." The heart's revelation later that night, Benjamin and Autumn sat by the fire in the main lodge while Tommy slept upstairs and Mrs. Chen retired to her room. The conversation flowed naturally, touching on dreams, regrets, and the paths that had led them to this moment. "I've been thinking about what you said yesterday," Benjamin said quietly, "about the universe putting us where we need to be. I've spent the last 10 years building an empire, but I've never built a life." Autumn curled her legs under her in the oversized chair. "What would your life look like if you could build it from scratch?" Benjamin was quiet for a long moment, staring into the flames. "I think it would look a lot like this. Simple, real, connected to something meaningful." "It's not too late to change course," Autumn said softly, "isn't it? I have responsibilities. People depending on me, shareholders who expect returns on their investments." "You also have a choice," Autumn replied. "Money can't buy the kind of peace I see in your face right now." A moment of truth the next morning brought news that the roads would finally be cleared by afternoon. Benjamin should have felt relieved, but instead, he felt a growing sense of dread about returning to his old life. He found Autumn in the kitchen, preparing lunch for the guests. Without thinking, he stepped behind her and gently touched her shoulder. He said quietly. She turned, and for a moment they simply looked at each other. The attraction that had been building between them was undeniable, but it was deeper than physical attraction. It was a recognition of something essential, something real. "I don't want to leave," he said simply. "I don't want you to," she replied. He cupped her face in his hands and kissed her softly, a kiss that felt like coming home after a long journey. When they broke apart, both of them were breathless. The difficult choice a horn honked outside, announcing the arrival of the tow truck. Benjamin's expensive car was finally going to be rescued, and with it, his return to the corporate world awaited. "Come with me," he said suddenly. "To Denver? To New York? I can show you my world." Autumn shook her head sadly. "That's not who I am, Benjamin. I belong here, with the mountains and the trees and the life my family built." "Then I'll stay," he said desperately. "For how long? Till your board of directors demands your return? Until your shareholders revolt? You can't just abandon the life you've built." Tommy appeared in the doorway, sensing the tension between the adults. "Are you leaving, Mr. Krause?" Benjamin knelt down to the boy's level. "I have to, Tommy, but maybe I can come back and visit sometime." "Promise?" Tommy asked. "Promise," Benjamin said, though his heart was breaking. The painful goodbye, an hour later. Benjamin's car was running again, and he had no more excuses to delay his departure. His luggage was packed, his phone was finally getting signal, and the mountain of messages waiting for him reminded him of the world he was returning to. Autumn walked him to his car, her arms wrapped around herself against the cold. "Thank you," she said, "for reminding me that there are still good people in the world." "Thank you for reminding me what it feels like to be alive," he replied. They kissed one more time, and then Benjamin got in his car and drove away, watching in his rearview mirror as Autumn grew smaller and smaller until she disappeared completely. The drive back to Denver felt like traveling between two different worlds, and with each mile, Benjamin felt a piece of his heart being left behind in the mountains. Benjamin threw himself back into his work with a vengeance, as if constant motion could fill the hollow space that had opened in his chest. He closed 3 major deals, expanded into 2 new markets, and increased company profits by 30%. By every measure that had once mattered to him, he was more successful than ever. But success felt hollow now. His penthouse apartment, once a symbol of his achievements, felt cold and impersonal. The expensive restaurants where he conducted business dinners served food that tasted like cardboard. Even his assistant James noticed the change. "Seemed distracted lately," James said during a particularly difficult board meeting. "Is everything all right?" Benjamin looked up from the financial reports spread across his desk. "Fine, James, just thinking about new opportunities." The partners? Concerned Victoria Sterling, his business partner and oldest friend, finally confronted him during a late evening at the office. She found him staring out the window at the city lights, an untouched dinner growing cold on his desk. "All right, what's wrong?" Victoria said, settling into the chair across from his desk. "You've been like a ghost for months. You're making more money than ever, but you look miserable." Benjamin sighed and turned from the window. "Do you ever wonder if we're building something meaningful, Victoria? Or are we just moving money around and calling it progress? Since when do you question our purpose? We've created hundreds of jobs, helped dozens of companies grow. What brought this on?" Benjamin was quiet for a long moment. "I met someone in Colorado during that storm 6 months ago." "Ah," Victoria said with understanding. "And where is this someone now? Running a mountain lodge with her family? Living a life that actually matters?" Victoria studied her friend's face. "You're in love with her?" "Completely," Benjamin admitted. "And I have no idea what to do about it. Have you talked to her since you left?" Benjamin shook his head. "What would I say? That I've spent 6 months thinking about her every day? That I've realized everything I thought I wanted was just an elaborate way of avoiding what I actually need?" Victoria leaned forward. "You could start with hello." That night, Benjamin sat in his apartment with his phone in his hand, Autumn's number displayed on the screen. He had memorized it months ago, but had never found the courage to call. What if she had moved on? What if his feelings were one-sided? What if she thought he was just another wealthy man trying to buy his way into her life? The phone call finally, he pressed the call button. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times, whispering Pine's Lodge. "This is Autumn," sound of her voice made Benjamin's heart race. "Autumn, it's Benjamin. Benjamin Cross." There was a pause. "Benjamin, is everything okay?" "I'm fine. I just... ... I've been thinking about you, about our time together. I know it's been 6 months, and you probably think I'm crazy for calling, but I couldn't stop myself." "I've been thinking about you too, Autumn," said softly. "Every day." The admission gave Benjamin courage. "I need to see you. Can I come to Colorado?" "Benjamin, nothing has changed. You have your life, and I have mine." "Everything has changed," he said firmly, "at least for me. Please, just give me a chance to explain." The return 3 days later, Benjamin drove up the familiar mountain road, his heart pounding with anticipation and fear. The lodge looked exactly the same, but everything felt different because he was different. Autumn met him on the front porch, and the sight of her took his breath away. She was wearing a simple blue dress and had her hair pulled back in a loose braid. She looked beautiful and uncertain and hopeful all at once. "You came," she said simply. "I told you I would," Benjamin replied. Tommy burst through the front door, taller than Benjamin remembered, but with the same enthusiastic energy. "Mr. Cross, you kept your promise. Did you bring any cool business stuff to show me?" Benjamin laughed, ruffling the boy's hair. "Actually, Tommy, I came to talk to your aunt about something very important." The proposal that evening after dinner. With Frank and Mrs. Chen, who had become a regular guest, Benjamin asked Autumn to walk with him to the place where they had first kissed. The mountains were purple in the twilight, and stars were beginning to appear in the clear sky. "I've spent the last 6 months trying to convince myself that what happened between us was just a moment of temporary insanity," Benjamin said. "But I can't do it anymore. You changed everything for me, Autumn. You showed me what it means to live a life that matters." He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket and got down on one knee. "I know I'm asking you to take a huge leap of faith. I know my world must seem alien to you, but I'm willing to leave it all behind if it means I can build a new life with you." Inside the box was a simple but elegant ring, with a diamond that caught the starlight like a captured piece of sky. "Marry me, Autumn. Let me stay here and help you build something beautiful together." The yes stares streamed down Autumn's face as she looked at the man kneeling before her. 6 months ago, he had been a stranger in expensive clothes, lost and disconnected from everything that mattered. Now he was offering to give up everything he had built to create something new with her. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, "Yes, of course, yes." He slipped the ring onto her finger and stood to kiss her. And in that moment, both of them knew they were exactly where they belonged. The new beginning. Benjamin spent the next month transitioning his business responsibilities to Victoria, who understood his decision even if she thought he was crazy. He kept a small consulting practice that he could run remotely, but his primary focus became the lodge and the life he was building with Autumn. Together, they expanded the lodge's offerings, adding photography workshops, cooking classes, and corporate retreats for executives who needed to reconnect with what mattered. Benjamin's business experience combined with Autumn's natural hospitality created something magical. The wedding, they were married in the meadow, behind the lodge on a perfect autumn day, when the aspen trees had turned gold and the mountains were crisp and clear. Tommy served as ring bearer, Frank walked Autumn down the aisle, and Mrs. Chen read a poem about love being the greatest adventure of all. Victoria came from New York, bringing half the corporate world with her, but they all agreed that they had never seen Benjamin happier. He stood at the makeshift altar in a simple gray suit, his eyes never leaving Autumn's face as she walked toward him. "Today," the minister said, "we celebrate not just the union of 2 people, but the creation of a new family, a new life built on love and shared dreams." The forever after a year later, Benjamin stood on the porch of the lodge, watching the sunrise paint the mountains in shades of pink and gold. Autumn came up behind him, wrapping her arms around his waist, and he could feel her smile against his shoulder. Any regrets? She asked softly. Benjamin thought about his old life, the corporate achievements that had once seemed so important, the money and status that had defined his worth. Then he thought about the simple pleasures that now filled his days: morning coffee with his wife, helping Tommy with his homework, building furniture with Frank, welcoming guests who left the lodge refreshed and renewed. Only one, he said, turning in her arms to face her. What's that? That it took a snowstorm to bring me home to you. Autumn laughed, the sound echoing across the valley like music. Sometimes the best things in life come from the storms we never saw coming. As the sun climbed higher, painting the world in warm golden light, Benjamin Cross knew he had finally found what he had been searching for his entire life. Not success or wealth or recognition, but something infinitely more valuable: a love that would last forever and a life that truly mattered. In the distance, Tommy's laughter mixed with the sound of wind in the pine trees, and Benjamin smiled, knowing that some storms don't destroy, they bring you exactly where you need to be.